Nice to be here at Adweek in Canada. I think I haven't spoken in Canada since 2011, so it's quite a pleasure. This topic is very relevant, I think, to 2015. It's pretty much been on the radar down in New York, and I thought it would be an interesting topic to discuss. As programmatic media buying continues to dominate the discussions in digital, the conversation has evolved from how it works to whether or not agencies and advertisers can maximize the advantages of this buying method in-house. So, let's see if that's working. So yeah, Jillian, thanks for the introduction. I'm James Aitken. Good morning. I left Canada actually in the 90s to go work for one of the creators of cookie technology in Seattle. It was a very dynamic time, a lot of business happening on the West Coast. We IPO'd that company in 2000. I got an opportunity to move to London, England, to open up the EMEA, Europe, Middle East, North African markets out of London, at which point we had the dot bomb and a lot of stuff closed down, including European operations, where I then went on to found Media Brokers, which was one of the first ad networks in the space, all about monetization of unsold media, really stacking inventory for publishers and aggregating it, the beginnings of what we now see as ad exchanges. We also had a business Atlas, which is a third-party ad server. It's now used by Facebook, repurposed and sold on. All these assets were bought by Microsoft, and Exchange Lab is really what I call the 3.0 for me, and the staff, the management staff have come through all these various businesses that I've been a part of. Exchange Lab founded in 2007. One of the interesting angles on Exchange Lab is our North American headquarters are based here in Toronto, which I think is a testament to this market where we actually do our ad operations, trafficking, and even technical support here. In the 90s, that wasn't the case, and we service New York, San Fran, and all the North American markets from here. So it's quite an interesting place to be. So, programmatic. It's been nominated as the word for 2014 by the Association of National Advertisers. I think the interesting thing is, it used to be called RTB, and I always chuckled with Andrew Casali over a pint when RTB, real-time bidding, was actually called Race to the Bottom by a lot of publishers, because the prices were so inexpensive for advertisers and publishers felt like they were moving their inventory to bad price points. Since then, it's changed to programmatic, and really we've seen a transformation in the market where premium inventory is moving into these exchanges because it's more efficient for publishers to sell that way. Even in our business at Exchange Lab, our chairman, Chris Dobson, came from the BBC, which is a premium publisher. They don't sell ad space in the UK. Obviously, tons of ad space throughout North America, and it was all sold programmatically, and he moved across as our chairman. So you can really see people shifting and moving based on this transformation that's taking place. And for us, based here in Toronto, we really take responsibility to try and educate the market as to what we're seeing in other markets and try and bring everyone up to speed so we can all benefit from it. Around what's going on with the consumer, well, programmatic now, it's called the always on campaign, because the reality is the consumers are always on. They're always surfing their phones. I'm sure, you know, my wife is constantly on Instagram rather than watching television at night. You know, there's iPads, everyone's constantly on. It's not like you buy primetime television spots, Seinfeld in the 90s, and say, bang, I've got the audience. With this in mind, I think, you know, there was an interesting movie I watched on the way back from London. Don't know if you've seen it, Men, Women, and Children, just out. But what was interesting about it is how the internet has changed people's relationships. And this has really happened in the past 10 years. And if you see this shot, what I thought was interesting is you can see the millennials and everything that they're surfing as they're walking around the hallways, you know, from Facebook to YouTube to, you know, this is what's going on right now. This is the always on campaign. And this is the reality for marketers, that if they want to reach these people, the consumer, they need to start taking this into consideration. And this isn't just in real life, it's also in numbers, in actual media spend. And I was lucky enough to go to Rome for the Festival of Media in the spring last year, where Steve King, who's the CEO of Zenith Opta Media, does his annual digital spend report. And within it, we found the global ad spend and as it's growing, but we also saw the programmatic spend and how it was growing. Originally about 3% to 2014 being 25 billion. In fact, we're estimating it's going to be more like 32 billion. And really it's because when automated trading begins, everyone moves to it because it's more efficient. We've seen this in the stock markets and the NASDAQ creation, and this continues to happen in our industry. And if we look at it over 4 years, we're looking at a quadrupling factor of spend. And this is real audited numbers that are happening. So I think for programmatic marketers, for CMOs, this is the reality, and having some understanding in the programmatic space is pretty important now. So what else is going on? Well, there's product innovation. When new products are coming to the market, they're actually loaded up into the exchanges. So they're layered on to those impressions that you're buying. And people can now just send them into the open market where people can bid on those products. So we've seen more product innovation, which is creating more demand in our market. So native advertising, social media advertising, TV sync. This is going to be really important as people are watching certain sports programs, which I'll get into later, and buying around multi-devices when they're seeing those sport games. To video. The explosion in video is massive. There was 4.7 billion spent on acquisitions last year alone. I'm sure you saw Brightroll bought. I mean, they're all like plus 500 million. Adapt TV bought for 405 million. Facebook buying LiveRail for 450 million. Amazon buying Twitch for 970 million. The list goes on. And if you want to understand more about that explosion, I would recommend you look at the Lumascape presentation that happened in New York this past month. And it's online. Terry Kawaju, who's actually another Canadian, produced it. And it's very interesting to see how we're seeing the merge of media coming into play here in 2015. This was another quote that I thought was really relevant and just happened again this past month down in New York. Neil Mohan is a very highly regarded operator in digital media. He took DoubleClick. When I was Atlas, we used to compete against DoubleClick. DoubleClick was publicly traded in 2002. They took it private and re-engineered DoubleClick, DFP, DFA. And Neil Mohan was one of the individuals who did that. They then sold the business up to Google for $3.2 billion, and this is where we saw a lot of the consolidation. And Neil's really the architect of their programmatic strategy. They bought AdMeld, which was an aggregation of publishers, supply-side platform that was aggregating all the publishers' inventory. And then they also bought Invite Media, which has now become DoubleClick Bid Manager, which is the demand-side platform, enables advertisers to buy into those platforms. He's the one making this mention, saying there's a transformational shift between brand and programmatic. And the half of the top 100 ad age spenders will have programmatic teams in residency. Pretty powerful stuff. So what do marketers care about most when it comes to programmatic media? Well, it used to be offline and online siloed strategies. Programmatic's bridging that gap into an omni-channel type of marketing effect, where it's always on and it's all tied into each other. What else do they care about? Definitely care about leveraging their own data. Good example, Expedia. When you buy a ticket to New York from Toronto 3 weeks ago, and you're going, let's say in a week's time, hopefully not in the blizzard, you'll actually get retargeted ads that offer you travel insurance, which is leveraging Expedia, leveraging their first-party data and throwing it out to their programmatic media campaigns. What else do they care about? Brand safety. They spend a lot of money on their brands. They don't want to wind up in social media user-generated content that might have malicious comments around it. They spend too much money building that brand. They care about transparency. Transparency of price. Tell me what you're buying. How much did it cost? Show me the real price. They care about transparency on KPIs in terms of You know, what's my lifetime customer value? How much does it cost to acquire that customer? And I'm sure there's a lot of marketers in this room, I hope there are, that are, and I'll be interested to hear what your other things that you care about when you're looking at this form of media. Viewability. Marketers have always bought GRPs in television. Well, in online, a lot of these ads potentially people don't view. They're way down the page. So there's new technologies, and there's been a lot of work in 2014 done around viewability. And this is a big one, impression fraud. And quite frankly, this has been in the industry since the 90s. And I actually sat on a board in London, which was part of the IAB. It was called IASH. We developed it to defend the ad network business because of all the daisy chain buying that was happening back then. And of course, the ad networks have sort of gone off a cliff, and you see these exchanges. So it's inherited in this programmatic business. And there is a lot of good work going on here in Canada with the Internet Advertising Bureau to try and combat this. At Exchange Lab, with all the DSPs we work with, we actually build lists and share that with our suppliers to try and find those fraudulent sites and keep impressions away from them. Anyways, back to the marketer. It's a confused market. Holy, is it ever confusing? And it seems to be getting more and more confusing. More players entering, more market share. So we get this slide, and actually, it was funny, in the Lumascape, again, here's their original. We're seeing a lot of activity in the center, in the media planning and attribution, DMPs and data aggregators. There's been a lot of acquisitions there in 2014. But really, for the marketers, I'm sitting there going, okay, so I've got my agencies, then the agencies buy from trading desks, the trading desks use DSPs, then they buy from exchange, then there's supply-side platforms, all the way down to the publisher. I'm losing 20, 40, 60% of my margin to get that one impression. So I'm really confused. Can someone help me navigate this? And then, in last year, you know, it's scary. It's scary. Here he is. Here he is, crazy scary. And then last year, you start seeing, and the year before, I'm a CMO, and I start seeing this stuff about, you know, trading desks that are the agency partner that I've been working with. And, you know, marketers avoiding the trading desks in search of transparency. You know, this isn't just our industry, it's the Wall Street Journal. This is getting really important to business. So you can really see that this would scare a marketer trying to figure out programmatic as well. What does this all mean? What does this all mean? And then I start getting this stuff. Gaining favor, bringing it in-house, because I'm worried about transparency. So Allstate takes it in-house. We see Kellogg's, Netflix take it in-house. We see P&G, Unilever take it in-house. We see, you know, it just keeps going on and on, StubHub. So I thought it was pretty pertinent to try and, again, explain what's going on in this space. So I thought I'd try and simplify the ecosystem for those that are thinking of bringing it in-house and how it all sort of works. So agencies created separate companies called agency trading desks. They might be owned by the holdco, be it WPP, Omnicom, Publicis, IPG, and you might work through a trading desk. Again, there's also vendors where they're programmatic specialists. They offer different opportunities in market. Criteo came from search retargeting to rocket fuel with their optimization algorithms. Exchange Lab, we specialize in multiple DSP and optimization, all the way down to Chango, who's also based here in Toronto, who's got some of their own special sauce as well. So what does it look like for in-house? I thought this would be interesting to break it down. If I'm a marketer in-house, this is what I'm looking at. I could get a contract with a DSP, demand-side platform, okay? Do I take one? Do I take more? And I have some more info on that. The ad server, I need to third-party ad serve my impressions so I can optimize through those exchanges. Now the issue is, DoubleClick was bought by Google, so search is always probably going to look a little better when you're looking at your DCM. It's called DCM now, numbers. Atlas is now owned by Facebook. So the media owner also owns the so-called third-party ad server. It's a bit of a conflict of interest, but kind of an interesting one, as I said, with Neil Mohan from Google. He's thought this all through, contain them in my stack and cloud of Google. It's a good one. And seismic independent. Then there's the DMPs, the data management platforms. And this one I think is a no-brainer for marketers where they need to own their data. And Adobe, there's Blue Kai that was just bought by Oracle last year, and there's a lot of vendors there. I'm just naming a couple. Attribution modeling. So how do I attribute the conversions? Someone sees it on a tablet, someone sees it on a mobile device, someone sees it on a PC. Again, that movie of men, women, and children shows you that sort of consumption of what's going on. Interestingly, Odometry got bought by Google last year, and Convertro got bought by AOL. So again, are they going to give me proper, real, agnostic attribution to my conversions? It's going to be questionable. And then there's the vendors that you can also pull in. Agency Trading Desk would probably be in that bucket as well. So I really think it's important when you're looking at programmatic to understand how we got here in terms of the rise of the titans, as I like to call it, where we saw massive consolidation hit into 2007, and then some new programmatic, and really consolidation hit again in 2014. And really, what's happened is the landscape I look at as oceans, where you want to fish all the oceans for your customer. So, you know, some of those, the DSPs, the demand-side platforms that enable you to fish that ocean, here they are lined up, Atlas into Facebook, Google with DBM, Yahoo with their video DSP acquisition, et cetera, et cetera. AppNexus has a major shareholding from MSN and seems to be better as we see it in MSN inventory. They also cross into different oceans as well. And these are the independents here, AdBrain being more of a mobile DSP to TubeMogul being more of a video DSP. What's interesting is they do cross, and I'll get into this a bit more on why it's important to use them all, because they all have strengths. So in this slide, and I'm sorry it's a bit busy, but I think what's important to note is down the left, you have all the different media tactics, programmatic tactics, from channel targeting to actually specific site targeting. I want to buy the BBC biddable inventory, to retargeting users, to TV sync products. And what you see here is platforms. The columns are actually these platforms, okay? And this heat map, as we call it, is one industry sector with one advertiser and one geo-target. And there's thousands of these every day that are popping up in our system. But what's interesting to note is if it's all dark green, it means it's hitting the client's KPI. And in this example, you can clearly see there's a lot of red on every column. So it's really important that you use all these different DSPs as we see it in the market for a marketer. But that's going to cause problems, right? Why else is it important? Well, here's an example of price. As I said, you have some independent DSPs. You might have, FT might have different DSPs bidding on their inventory. Well, you can bid on the same impression and find it cheaper using different DSPs. And that's because, if you think about it, I'm a publisher. I've got a bunch of inventory. I want to send it in the auction. Okay, I'm going to do a contract with this supply-side platform, Pubmatic. Might do another contract with Rubicon, have them compete, because I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. Now, those negotiations could have different commercial terms. And then on this side, you got the DSPs. I'm DBM, I'm Trade Desk, I'm MediaMath, and I'm lining up different negotiations with those actual supply-side platforms. So therefore, there's a price disparity that happens through the train. That's why it's important for marketers to have more than one DSP, to see that, to have that transparency of price. And then it goes one step farther, is if you're not using a multi-platform approach, you're paying more. In this example, $1.70 CPM. With multi-platform, you're paying less, 108, which means you're getting 3.3 million more impressions. And I'm just laying out this example because it correlates to actual conversions. And at the end of the day, using a multi-platform approach could also serve out to be every fourth impression is free when you're doing multi-platform because of the savings and the price transparency alone. So, moving back to more marketers want programmatic to live in-house. It's quite apparent. Brands that have gone to the in-house route, you've got Allstate that came from doing an ad serving contract negotiation and then found out that they're quite sophisticated in all their different financial products and actually did some deals with DSPs. You have Unilever and P&G that if they spend so much money on media that if they have 2 to 5% savings, that's a massive amount and worth bringing it in-house. Kellogg's is more of a hybrid, working with the agency trading desk and some vendors. Netflix has a massive amount of data about what people are watching, and they really wanted to own that data, and no one else could have access to it, so that's why they took it in-house. What does in-house mean? This is interesting. So some marketers say, I really want it in-house, and we go and talk to them. And basically, you sort of look at the dials. So planning, campaign setup, campaign management, really want to control the contract negotiations with the DSPs and the ad server. And I want to integrate it at the end here with my reporting, so I have all the insights. So that's more of an enterprise client, client one. That really is a SaaS model. Managed service, this is more a managed service client. What's interesting is when we actually asked all the questions, they didn't actually really want to bring all the trafficking in-house and all the overhead for staff costs. However, they did want the reporting in real time, and they wanted it integrated with their DMP, but still really comes out at the end in the wash as a managed service. So the top 5 considerations for bringing programmatic in-house. It's going to save you money. Just an example, $100,000 marketing budget a month and 5% savings works out to 60 grand for that marketer, or 5 to 10, 60 to 120,000. You could take that money and hire a programmatic team lead in-house. Business insights. You know, there was the battle of the DSPs a couple years ago here in Canada, and Canadian automobile dealer was trying to, get more test drives on their cars. They actually found out that it was college-educated married women that were the coming in and actually booking the test drives. They couldn't find enough people to get to their site. They used look-alike modeling, where you profile the cookie and find what other cookies had the same behavior. And they found out that actually casual gaming had that. And this was funny. It turned out that the best performing site was Farmville. That's what happens. But what's interesting, if you're bringing programmatic in-house, you can leverage that, you can build a partnership, do a content integration, and really build on that insight that you learned. Data protection and ownership, key around, it's the advertiser's data and sharing it with agencies. They have multiple clients, vendors have multiple clients, so really the data protection and ownership, DMP relationships, I would recommend should really remain with the marketer. And just to give you an idea about some of the clouds around this is Adobe. It's a data management platform. They're already integrated with most of the DSPs. You look here, Brightroll and Turner are the only ones they haven't integrated with. Meaning, any vendor could do the buying for this client if they had Adobe. Okay, so they already are integrated. They don't have access to that client's data, but they can use those DSPs to buy retargeting campaigns on that data. This is a good one. This should be, well, there wasn't a big blizzard in New York. Was it bad? Jillian, was it bad? It was medium. Medium, so it's not that bad. But if I'm Michelin, and I know there's a blizzard coming, and I have programmatic in-house, I'm loading all my winter tire creative up, and I'm blitzkrieging New York City. So it's that agility that you can have, speed to market, that having that programmatic expertise also helps. Which leads me to actually having that expertise starts in empowering the marketer to have the agency work more on creative and strategy and less on implementation. So, bringing programmatic in-house, other considerations. Well, we know from our business that negotiating with the various technology vendors is complicated and takes time. There's scale, there's minimums, monthly minimums that are in place, and it's a whole skill set. We actually have a vendor team at Exchange Lab that this is all they do. And it takes a lot of time. The other problem is, that vendor team is constantly vetting different DSPs that come available every month or so, and understanding, do they add something on top of what we offer as a company. So some of the insights Black Friday, this was a good one. We published this where we actually found that advertising in digital media had only gone up by 2 cents, but conversions were spiking, were way higher than any other day. Now, if you went and bought other media, you'd be buying at 300% more, and with programmatic, you're only buying 2 cents more. So kind of valuable, good insight, opportunity for clients. This is going to be really interesting this weekend. We love the Super Bowl. I always get excited. In London, I never got the Super Bowl ads, and I still don't get them here in Canada. So yeah, that's too bad. But is there some way we can change to bear that so I can see the ads? Probably not. The point here is TV Sync is here in 2015. And there's a real opportunity to buy all the mobile devices, tablet devices, and PC devices. It's much more inexpensive than buying those big, expensive Super Bowl ads. And it's already happening. You seen the Bud Dog? He disappeared last week. And right now he's on YouTube. He's all over the place on all this. It's a programmatic buy happening. Go look at it this week. And then they're probably going to couple that with the final finale ad on the Super Bowl. But again, it's a good example of marketers taking that in-house and taking ownership on the story of that actual execution. Bringing it in-house, other considerations, well, there's a lot of good optimization that happens behind the scenes by a lot of these programmatic companies. And they've learned a lot. There's a reason why they're in business. And if you're isolated to just one vendor, or you're sitting in-house trying to do it all yourself, you might be missing out on those. You're going to have to train and constantly train that talent. So you're going to want to find vendors that invest in your staff and training, because it's going to consistently change as the market develops. And this is another consideration. I had to throw this in here because I used to run a tree planting company. That was my first foray into business back in the early 90s. And really, it's all about tree planting. It's the motion and the consistency, and you don't want to get tired because you want to put more trees in the ground. Well, in programmatic media, there's a ton of manual process that happens, from loading up pixels to everything that goes into executing a campaign. So basically, very mundane tasks. And I'll show you this because it's a good example. I talked about a multiple DSP strategy. If you see the first bar, what we did is we monitored our ad operations team and counted how long it took them to fulfill these tasks. Okay, and in the first bar, that's with one single DSP. It could be DoubleClick Bid Manager. In the second bar, you're seeing 3 platforms, and you can see the time go up. In the third, that's 5 platforms. Okay, we think the sweet spot's 3 to 5 platforms for a campaign. Okay, in programmatic media. Now, what we did, because we've been in operation now for 8 years, is we built a technology, because we just have to throw more and more headcount to it, and it wasn't efficient. So we built Proteus, which is all around automating this process. But the challenge for you as a marketer bringing it in-house is you will have your team doing mundane tasks rather than looking at the analytics or the business insights that actually drive your business forward. And that's the challenge, another consideration. So, what are some of the things, what sort of model? You can choose a full SaaS model, which is all around technology. You can have a professional services, a managed service model. But you can also have both. Which is the way forward? I think it's important that you understand, there's no right answer here. It's all going to be based on your needs as a marketer and how it pertains to you and what's important and what's your niche business. The world has definitely moved to a programmatic world, and we're seeing that with all the data and research. This is what you have to consider when you're bringing it in-house. All these different DSPs, all these different ad servers, there's a lot here. So what are the pieces that you want to own as a marketer? I think definitely the DMP piece. Protecting your data is important as a marketer. Attribution, a little more complicated, but I think very pertinent to a marketer. But taking into consideration that some of those attribution companies are owned by the media owners that you're buying media from. So choosing that partner that provides you, we believe, with multi-DSP access. So you're fishing all the oceans. Brand and performance capabilities, partners that can do video execution. It's available. As I said, 2014 was the year, the 4.6 billion acquisition year of video. So you want to be in on that, but you also want to be able to do ROI, CPA-based marketing as well. A partner that allows you to test and learn. Try new products, because the TV Sync product, if you're a marketer, you should be definitely testing this year. Rich consumer and business insights, a partner that gives you that. Allows you to get under the hood of the data and actually execute on those key learnings. I've given you a couple examples that we've seen over the years. And the last, and probably I think the most important, provides transparency into what you're buying, how much you're paying, and honest about those questions and those answers that you get back. So I can't leave the stage without giving a little plug for Exchange Lab. We actually launched Proteus, which is our technology platform at Adweek New York, and we use it internally at Exchange Lab. And in Q4, we started actually demoing with certain marquee clients. And as of today, well, I'd like to officially announce today, Proteus has been launched as a standalone enterprise solution for marketers and for agency trading desks. So we're planning to actually start licensing this to help people access all the different DSPs and integrate all the different data sources so that they have one programmatic dashboard that they can look at. So thanks very much. I used to plant trees on a cost per thousand. Now I plant ads on a cost per thousand. At least I don't have to go out there when it's raining and snowing and living in a tent, but I kind of miss that, but there you go. So thanks for your time. I hope it was insightful.